Here, maybe, let's see. That's a big question, David. Hmm. The Nisargadatta would always say, you want to know about the world, but you don't know who you are. So, uh, so Nisargadatta Maharaj really would point to the idea, or let's say the knowing of what you are, essentially, what you and I are before this body and mind, and then all other questions would be answered, pretty much. That's what he was alluding to. So he would always say, know yourself, and then all other questions will be answered, yeah. But something like that you bring up reminds me, I was in Thailand, in the north, in this place called Chiang Dao, and I was eating breakfast with this woman who just left the monastery. She was a monk, and she was talking to a famous Ajahn, who's like a pretty high teacher in Theravada Buddhism. And she asked, what is the meaning of life? And he said, you're asking the wrong question, because the real question you want to ask is, what gives life purpose? Because from the Buddhist standpoint, nothing has meaning until the mental system gives it meaning. So, because of emptiness, the concept of emptiness, or the fact of emptiness, let's say, there is no meaning to life. The mental system puts meaning on life. Because of that, he said well, at least my take on it, the main movement of life is what gives life purpose. Yeah. So for one to know what they are before this body and mind, that knowing of what you are before the body and the mind would drive the body and the mind. It's like in 12-step recovery when we say you're driven, is what the big book says. So you're either driven by the mental system or by the infinite, let's say, of what you are. What you are being the infinite. Yes, before this body and mind, for lack of better language, before the body and mind. Knowing that the body and mind are driven in this life, and that it's given purpose, usually to serve other people somehow. But the meaning of life is a subjective thing, because the mental system is giving life meaning from its own conditioned view. So there is no one meaning to life. The world and life is given meaning subjectively from each person's different head, essentially. But to know what you are would answer all of those questions. So that's what Nisargadatta always said. But the idea of, or the fact of emptiness that comes from Buddhism, is that everything's only given meaning from the mental system. So if you know what you are before the body and the mind, this will be put to good use, essentially, or there will become purpose in this body. Yeah. It's 42. I don't know what that was. Well, the idea of the thing about to know thyself to be to thy own self be true, or to know thyself, yeah. What thinks it knows you is not what you are. So what you are is being before this body and mind. Let's say awareness, yeah. Awareness doesn't have any thoughts. It's just wide open awareness, and it's aware of what you're taking yourself to be, which is this body and mind, yeah. So in order to know what you are, as far as the who's listening idea will go, would be a negation of what's heard. As soon as your head says, I know myself, that ain't what you are, essentially. That's not where you start. You start before the head says, I know myself. Yeah, as soon as that mental system says, I know myself, you can hear that because you're before that. Yeah, that's the mental system's claiming of what you are, and taking it and trying to do what it does with everything else, which is give it tons of meaning. But what you and I are is before that mental system, which says, I know myself. Yeah? As soon as the head says, I know myself, it's now been taken into a subjective idea. The conditioning of the mental system has grabbed on to the idea and claimed what you are. Yeah? The whole point is you can hear that. You can hear it from before it. So maybe I'll look at this. Let me find something here. This is from Nisargadatta, I think. I think it is, anyways. He said, remember that the listener is you in Videhi, or bodiless. Remember that the listener in you is bodiless. He said, just listen. The listener in you is consciousness, and changes are bound to happen. So the changes are the body and the mind, body-mind world are constantly changing and morphing. Yeah? The idea, I know myself, will very quickly change to I don't know myself. That would be a changing within the non-changingness of what you are. So you can hear the changing of the brain all the time. You can hear the mental system giving life meaning, and then the head goes, I'm the meaning giver, and you can hear your head say me or I'm. So obviously you are before all of that stuff. Yeah? So that Nisargadatta thing is kind of cool. He says, just listen. The listener in you is consciousness, meaning, let's say, awakeness, yes? And the changes are bound to happen. The body and the mind will always keep changing. That the brain is going to keep giving life meaning, and that meaning is going to flip back and forth all the time. If we live as that meaning giver, this life can become a very anxiety-inducing thing, to the point where you might try to drink yourself to death, like I did. So, the point is, you can see your head trying to give life meaning. Not try, it is giving life meaning. And if you live as that, you live as the flip-flop, including the idea, I know myself. Yes? The idea, I know myself, is dualistic, so it will switch. So there's I know myself one day, and then the next day is the dread of, oh no, I don't know myself anymore. What is changing within the open space of listening will always keep changing. So it's very unreliable to live by. The point is that you can hear it from before it. You can hear your head flipping back and forth, changing. I know myself, I don't know myself. Yeah? That's why when the head says, I know what I am, it's not reliable. Because the mental system cannot grab the open space of listening. Because it's always heard. Yeah? The mental system thinks it becomes the listening. But it's always there as the listener. There is no listener in the center of the pot, but the head is trying to sell that you are a permanent independent listener, giving meaning to the world. And when you live from that, there's always this question, what's my purpose, what's my purpose, what's my purpose? And the head finds one purpose one day and one purpose the next day. Yeah? It becomes very confusing. So in order to get relief, this is a beautiful message, or the enquiry who's listening, or what Nisargadatta says. The listening is always before that flipping back and forth. That flipping back and forth of me is called self in recovery, and self-reliance will fail you. That's a big point of 12-step recovery. Self-reliance will fail you. So rather than trying to know myself, I'd much rather just listen, like Nisargadatta says, and everything that can be heard, you're not that, or that's not where you start. Everything that can be heard only exists because of the hearing before it. And you can hear your head say me. All other ideas, thoughts, the bundle of thoughts, which is J, is after that me thought. Actually, all that bundle of thoughts only gets meaning from the thought that me, that they're my thoughts. Yeah? So the changes of the mental system, I know myself, and then I don't know myself. Or the changes of the mental system, the world is good, or the world is bad. Those changes will continue to happen. That's why Nisargadatta says here, the changes are bound to happen. Because this is a dualistic experience, yeah? As soon as the brain says, I know myself, now the option of not knowing yourself is there. You can't get out of that duality as a body. That's why he says in the quote, you are bodiless. The mental system is taking this body to be what it is, and it's taking it to be independent. And that's a very claustrophobic experience. So now Jay wants to know himself, yeah? But Jay cannot know what is before Jay. The before knows Jay. Yeah? So the listening, let's call it awareness, open awareness, is always awake and always right there, and it's constantly listening to Jay. The suffering starts when that open listening identifies with Jay, and then the duality of Jay, I know myself, I don't know myself, the world is great, the world is terrible. I get bound to that up and down. And then I want out of it. So then the Jay goes, I want to know myself. Yeah. But really, the only thing we can know is what we're not, or what we can hear, which is what you are identified as. Yeah. Oh, man. And then it would be said that listening knows itself. So awareness would come to know itself as well as everything else. But the method here, really, when it comes to sound meditation, listening, and inquiry, is that what's heard is not what you are, so it's not grasped, or it's not held on to. The hand is not closed on what is heard, body, mind, world. And in that, it gets negated, essentially. Not destroyed, you don't have to do anything. You just don't grab it, or let's say identify as that. And then you sit back into something which is much looser, much more wide open, and is aware of what you're taking yourself to be as the body and the mind, or as they would say in recovery, as self. And then you see the flipping back and forth, and you see how much the brain, or let's say Jay, cannot come to know what's before Jay, because what I am is already before Jay. Yeah. It's the knowing of Jay from what's already before it. And then as soon as the head goes, oh, I know what I am, that is the mental system, that's Jay trying to claim the open awareness, which is not the case. The point is you can hear it, yeah? You can hear it. And then if you say, well, who's hearing the body and the mind? The answer is always me or I am, and you can hear that answer. So you wouldn't grasp that me thought anywhere, and that would leave you in a pause, essentially. An open space of a pause. And then the brain will pop back in. So this Nisargadatta thing is quite cool. Remember that the listener is bodiless. The listener in you is consciousness, and the changes are bound to happen. There's one thing with the language here. He says the listener. There is no listener as a separate individual thing. There's listening. The mental system presents you as the one who's hearing the body, mind, emotions, and everything else. Yeah? The mental system says, I am the hearer. I am hearing. It's presenting you as a permanent, independent thing. But when you really go look inside of this thing, there is no permanent, independent thing. There's an idea of a listener. But there is no individual thing inside here except from a sense of individuality, which there is a sense of individuality. There's a sense of Jay, which is different than David, let's say. That's true, but the sense presents the idea that there is a permanent independent thing in here called Jay that is the listener. And that's not the case. It keeps presenting that way with that idea me. That is that idea me is the crux of self-centeredness, yeah? Because that me thought can only think from itself or like at itself in a very odd way. And that is self-centeredness, which is the pivot point of suffering and the pivot point of recovery from addiction, is letting go of the grip of that self-centeredness. So he mentions in the quote listener, but what he's talking about is listening, because there is no separate individual thing known as a listener. So Nisargadatta would also say, see your nature, and that would answer all of your other questions. And the head will continue to claim to be the knower of everything that it touches. It will claim to be the owner and knower of each thing that it grasps onto. And it always comes back to the I thought. So you stay on the question, who's hearing these voices in the head? I am, yeah? But if you search for that I, you won't find anything aside from an idea that keeps coming and going. That's the whole point. The head claims to be the listener of all of the thoughts. It puts you in a position, the mental system, as a permanent thing, which is seeing a bunch of impermanent thoughts. But the permanent thing that it's presenting you as is one of the impermanent thoughts. When you go to bed at night, it goes away. Yeah? It comes and goes actually all day long. But when the head says me or I, when you say who's listening to all these thoughts, the head goes, I am, yeah? You can hear that from before it. You know that I from before it. But when you identify with it, it puts you as a permanent independent thing separate from everything else. That's what the enquiry of sound meditation uproots. Because there is no permanent independent thing called J. J is like a conglomeration of past, essentially. And it goes away at night and it wakes back up in the morning. And it goes J and then me and then time and then there I am, seemingly as the same independent thing as I've always been, quote unquote, according to the mental, yeah? So the inquiry, who's hearing or who's listening to all of these ideas, me, well then you search for that me, yeah? Who's hearing the me? Or what is hearing the me? Yeah. And then your head will say me. It can't get out of itself, but you can hear this game through the inquiry. It's really quite a beautiful thing. And then questions will start to answer themselves, I feel. At least that's what's been noticed here. And purpose, you'll see that the mental system is giving life all of the meaning. So my opinions and beliefs give this world meaning. Before those opinions and beliefs, the world has no meaning. It's just an event, which is like happening moment to moment. The brain is what's giving meaning. The mental system is giving meaning. And if you're in the world of addiction, which I'm in, it gives meaning usually, which is not so comfortable for me, like scary or like bad or super judgmental, or it gives meaning that everything is better than I am. Yeah. So to see that there is no meaning giver, the mental system is just giving meaning as conditioned, and I don't have to identify as it because I'm not it, because there is no separate me thing which is giving the meaning, is a great relief in this life. Yeah? And then the individuality operates a lot better. But the world only has meaning from my opinions and beliefs, and it has a different meaning from your opinions and beliefs. Yeah? That this experience would be subjective. And then that subjective experience can become very uncomfortable. So Jay then wants to get out of that experience, but Jay can't get out of the meaning that it's giving everything. it tried that through booze and then spirituality and whatever it's going to get into. But J can't get out of J as the meaning giver. Yeah. The meaning giver, J, cannot stop giving meaning based on the past, because I'm not doing that. It's like a mechanical conditioned thing. So as soon as the head says tree, it says tree. There's no individual doer before that. But if I identify with it, when the head says I'm worthless, then I also go with that idea. And that can become a very... that can become a dark hole, let's say. And then I want to get out of that, but what tries to get out of it again is J. And J can't get out of J. But I'm before J, which is the beauty of this whole thing, yeah. It's like what you are is always listening to what you're taking yourself to be. What you are is always listening to the body and the mind. It's unmoving, and all the changes of the body and the mind happen in that openness of the unchanging, thankfully. And from that seat, there's a lot of relief. From the seat of nowhere, there's a lot of relief. That's why Nisargadatta says, just listen, don't do anything else. Just listen. And whatever you can hear, that's not where you start. And then you can hear the antics of the head giving meaning to the world and giving meaning to everything. And you don't do anything about it, really. You just see that what's heard is not what you are, and then it goes on. But you're no longer tied to its constant meaning giving. Or it's flipping back and forth. I know myself, I don't know myself, I know myself, I don't know myself. Yeah. You're not tied to that. Because you're always hearing it from before it. From the hearing, which is what you are, before your head says, I'm the listener. Or I'm the thinker, or I'm the seer, or I'm the taster, or I'm the toucher, or I'm this, and I'm this, and I'm this. Really, the relief is from the self-centered mental system. But the self-centered mental system does not get relief, really. You get relief from that by seeing that you're not it, because you can hear it. That's where the relief is, yeah. And then the body gets a lot of relief because I'm no longer living as the drill sergeant of the brain, the mental, J trying to get out of J. You see that that's never going to work, and that's a lot of relief to the body because you can stop overworking the body, yeah? And that's a really beautiful, that's a lot of relief for the body. Because most of the time we're overworking the body like way too much. Yeah. Nice. Alright, I don't know if any of that was about anything, but... that's where we are, I suppose. If anybody wants to say anything or ask a question about that, then please feel free to put it in the little thing there. No? Maybe nobody's left. Or maybe everybody's left, that's the point.